Hi, Shavuot Tov. This is Daniel. I was speaking with my daughter the Shabbat, uh, February 19th. It was Shabbat, February 18th. And I just wanted to share with you the idea that I had. Nothing new under the sun, so I highly doubt that I'm the only one who's ever thought of this. But I was really, really excited. Sort of felt like it came to me. Really felt I was extremely excited. I thought about it around 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and Shabbat didn't get out till about 6:10. It's almost 6:50 now in the evening, so it's taking me some time. So here goes. I'm going to just try and say this, hopefully as close to what I said to my daughter over Shabbat. So I was reading in the Parsha, in Parsha Ki Tisa, which is the Parsha that we just read over Shabbat. And I was saying, interesting that all of a sudden I thought I discovered a connection between the 10 Commandments, which were in Parsha Yitro, and in the first few sections of the Parsha. And I'm going to try and give it over again relatively quickly, not to draw it out, but to give some of the ideas of how I made these connections. So the first commandment, according to most opinions, of course, not everybody agrees, but the first commandment is, I am the Lord your God of you who took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. That's the first, considered to be the first commandment by many Meforshim and many Talmudei Hachamim, Torah scholars. And what's the connection? So who was taken out of Egypt? Who were actually the Jewish people? Who was the Hebrew nation? Who was Am Yisrael? So in the first sentence we read in Parsha Ki Tisa, it says, God spoke to Moshe saying, when you wish to take the sum of the children of Israel to determine their numbers, count them by letting each man give to God an atonement for his soul. And you don't count them directly according to many opinions, according to the Rashi over here. So you have to give a hetzi shekel, the rich and the poor. So that's how we know who is a part of Am Yisrael, is that you're supposed to count them. You do a census, you take a census, and that's who the nation is. And there's a specific way you do the census. You don't point at people and count them. You use a substitute counting method, which in this case was the hetzi shekel method. And it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, everybody is equal in God's eyes. So everybody has to, even doesn't matter if you're the richest Hebrew in the whole world, or you're the poorest Hebrew in the whole world, or poorest Jew, etc. It doesn't matter. You have to give a hetzi shekel. Okay, so that's the first one. That's the first commandment in connection to the hetzi shekel in the census. The second commandment is, you shall not possess an idol of other deities. You shall not make for yourself a sculptured image or any picture of that which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth below, or which is in the water beneath the earth. You shall not bow down before them, nor worship them, for I am God, your God. I'm a God who is zealous, according to Rashi, to enact punishment, who visits the iniquity of the fathers upon the sons, upon the third and fourth generations of those who continue in their God's ways. Like if you continue in the way of your parents, you're going to do the same sins as your parents. But I act kindly to those who love me and to those who keep my commandments for 2,000 generations. That is the second commandment. They don't idol worship. Don't have idol worships, and don't make items that represent anything in the heavens or the earth, or heavens and the skies or the waters. But wait a minute, since Parsha Yitro and all the Parshas up to Ki Tisa, we have us making all the objects in the base of Mikdash, in the Mishkan, and that were eventually used in the temple. So, but in this specific Parsha Ki Tisa, you have the urn, you have the anointing oil, you have the incense. Okay, and then you have the appointment of Batzalo and Olhav, who make all the items that go in the Mishkan. So clearly, how is that? But that seems to kind of, wait a minute, how could they make those objects when we just said don't make any objects? It says no, don't worship any objects. So anything you're allowed to make it, you're not allowed to make things. Obviously, I'm using a computer, or somebody made the computer, right? Maybe people make phones too, right? So even let's say a Jew is involved, a religious Shomer Shabbat Jew can be involved in making computers and making phones and making all kinds of objects, including artwork and music. You're just not supposed to worship it. You don't bow down to it and think that thing is God that was made. So all these objects that we just mentioned and that were mentioned in the previous parshas leading up to this were all permitted objects to be made. So that goes to the second commandment. Then the third commandment, you shall not take the name of God, your God, in vain, for God will not absolve anyone who takes his name in vain. Now, this means don't use God's name. Don't make oaths. Don't swear in the name of God. Don't use God's name like flippantly. Like, just don't like throw it around, right? And you're supposed to be very serious whenever you make a vow to using God's name. Matter of fact, in almost all circumstances, we always say bli nader, right? Jews are, we don't want to make an actual oath on God's name. But so it says, when it says taking it, but on the other side, we want to follow God's words. And what we know for a fact that God spoke to Moses, and Moses only said exactly what God said to say, and he only said those things to Yeshua and to the elders. And in this case, he's giving exact instructions to Bezalel and Ohalev, who receive also extra wisdom from Hashem. So they're actually keeping the commandment of, they're actually using God's name because they're specifically appointed to make these objects. They're actually keeping God's name, and they're not breaking by making false promises. They're going to do exactly what they said. They're going to do exactly what Moses is going to do, exactly what he says he's going to do, and Aaron's going to do exactly what he's going to say he's going to do, and the elders and Yeshua. So you get the idea that you should not take the Lord your God. Don't take God's name in vain. Here we see that we are actually keeping God's name by keeping the commandments that were given. Okay, so then the fourth commandment: remember the Sabbath day. Remember the Shabbat to sanctify it. 6 days may you work and perform all your labor, but the seventh day is the Shabbat to God, your God. You shall not perform no labor, neither you, your son, your daughter, your maidservant or manservant or maidservant, your beast, nor your convert who is within your gates. For in 6 days God made the heavens and earth and the sea and all that is in them, and he rested, so to speak, Rashi, so to speak. On this, Rashi, these inserts of Rashi are kind of, humorous a little bit. On the seventh day, therefore God blessed the Sabbath day by causing a double portion of manna to fall on Friday, and it sanctified it by not bringing the manna on Shabbat. So basically, keep Shabbat. The fourth commandment is the mitzvah of remembering Shabbat. And guess what happens after Bezalel and Ohalev are introduced? You have literally the verse that said, God spoke to Moses saying, you shall speak to the children of Israel say, but keep my Shabbat, even when you're building the tabernacle, for as a sign between me and you for all generations that I chose you, so that the other nations should know that I, God, am making you holy. I think that's an obvious parallel between Shabbat and the Parsha Ki Tisa. Obviously, it says it specifically, keep Shabbat, and here we say keep Shabbat. Okay, now you shall not murder. Now, what happens immediately after the observance of Shabbat? First of all, if you don't keep Shabbat and you're witnessed to not keeping Shabbat, there's a death penalty on that. But even in the sin of the golden calf, if you were witnessed not keeping Shabbat by two kosher witnesses, and they warned you, the Levites took a sword and they killed you. Okay, so don't. The consequences, so they were allowed to, you're saying, well, Daniel, that's not really murder, but I'm saying there is a parallel to the order of the Ten Commandments and the Parsha. Now, there's other ways that people died. There was also people who died by a plague, and then there was people who had to drink. Moses, he took the calf, he ground it up, he like threw it in the fire, and he ground it up, and he made people drink the solution that had the ashes of the golden calf. And that mirrors the three ways a person could die. One is by witnesses who witness a person doing something and then warn you, but you still do that thing anyways. It's the death penalty. Then you get the death penalty by the base din. Then there's the second type of person who they were witnessed, the witnesses, but the witnesses didn't warn them, and that person still did that action. Those people died in the plague. Then there was people who still did the action of worshiping the golden calf, but they were like, ha ha ha, nobody's watching. They did it in private somehow. They did it in a way that there was, even though there's 3 million people around, they did it in a way that was hidden, or they thought was hidden. But God obviously sees everything. So then those people died by having to drink the sota waters, similar to the sota waters. And it's interesting here. So what's the next commandment after thou shalt not murder? Is you shall not commit adultery. And what is the formula for determining if somebody commits adultery? Is it's a woman in this case, is you give them the sota water and they drink it, and if she's innocent, that she's going to give birth, that she's going to have a healthy birth and be able to get pregnant. And if she's not guilty, she dies this horrible death where her stomach explodes. Here, Here, what happened in the golden calf is there were people who weren't witnessed, who nobody witnessed them and nobody was able to warn them, but they still worshiped the golden calf. So how did they die? Moses took the golden calf ashes and he made them drink it. And Rashi says over there, it's like the sota waters. So that's how it's connected to you should not commit adultery. Now, you shall not steal. And Rashi adds people, i.e. kidnapping. You shouldn't kidnap anybody, just in general. Generally shouldn't kidnap people. And what's the next thing? What happens after the golden calf incident? What does Moses say? God said to Moses, wait, so Moses goes down, all these things happen with the golden calf, everybody's punished, there's this huge, all these people are dying, there's a plague. And then at some point, we get the second tablets. Wait, where is it? No, you get that. Wait 1 second to pause. I have to find it. I'll be back 1 second. Be back, part 2.